Lovely. It's so nice to be here, truly. So I'm Rachel Gnagniko, and like Alicia said so many nice stuff about me. I hope it's true. I'm going to try to stay at the level of how she introduced me. I'm really excited to be here yesterday. I arrived yesterday, and I just like investigated a bit in the city, and I asked someone in the street, like, oh, what do you love about this city? And they say, oh, I don't know. It's a really nice city. And I was like, asked, what's the last cool stuff you've done in this city? And they said, oh, you know, there is this really, really nice place here that is called SVA. I was like, oh, I know what you talk about. So this is where we are now. I am really happy to be here also to have this conversation with you two. And I'm going to introduce you, if that's okay? If I introduce you?
That's good.
Yes. So I think it's probably the most important part for me today is to introduce Black Art Media that you may or may not know, that is part of your community, and that I'm really excited to be able to have this conversation with. So Black Art Media sheds critical light on what it means to be Black, British, in a time of perpetual change, and so you've got the opportunity to access their arts here, as they create events that bring communities together to share socially conscious art, literature, and films that allow people to have meaningful conversation about race, culture, and identity. And so Derrick here traveled a lot, and he's a fantastic community organizer, which I think we do need in the conversation that we have here. We talk about art, creativity, and we always wonder, how do we engage with people? In all those fantastic things, how do we engage with people? And Ronnie is a writer, and he's a community artist, and yeah, you can read his text. He's published authors, and so you can read what he does. And now I'm going to say a word about myself, because I think at this point, you might have noticed my tiny little accent, very discreet. And I'm based in Liverpool, and I'm working on my Scouse, I promise. It's not working well at all, no progress so far. It's 8 years I've been in Liverpool, but I'm French, from Paris, and anti-oppression means going beyond, so I'm an anti-oppression management consultant, means going beyond inclusion, representation, and removing barriers. It means acknowledging the power imbalances and giving power where it needs to be for more equity. So that was a very long introduction, and then we're going to have this conversation.
Okay, so hi everyone. We're really going to have a conversation, as already been said. So it's not going to necessarily be linear, that kind of linear format. You know, we're just going to try and get some discussions on the table. We don't have that much time. We have spoken a little bit before, so there are lots we agree with and lots we disagree with. So that makes for an interesting discussion. So. The idea of culture shock means quite different things to all of us on the stage. But firstly, Rachel, what I'd like you to begin with, and I'm not the person facilitating this, but I think this is quite important. Could you briefly tell us a little bit about this image? Because this is quite central to some of the things that we're going to be talking about.
So yeah, you can see this image in behind me. It's my window at home in Liverpool, where I live, where I've been living for 8 years. And that the window was like that on the 25th of December 2023, I guess. I wasn't here. I was in France spending Christmas with my family. And someone, for some reason that I don't know, thought that it was a good idea to send a stone in my window. And I absolutely love this picture. I absolutely love this picture because you can see how the stone literally stayed stuck in my window. Like they tried to break it, it didn't work. It didn't work. And I will make it sound funny, because this is what we do, isn't it? But it wasn't funny at all. At all. That's scary, and it made me feel very scared in my home. And still today, I'm like, yeah, there is a sofa just here. Just here. This is where I sit at home to enjoy the sun. So I could have been there. But yeah, this is culture shock. That can mean that. That's probably what came first in my head when I've heard this idea of culture shock. I wanted to share this picture.
And this comes out of the race riot, right? The recent race riot that we had, because we need to make it explicit.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing. It wasn't during the race riot, it was before.
It was before the race riot.
It was before.
Okay.
So the race riot was so scary for me because it was a reminder. And I was like, I said to my partner, you know what? If they want to finish what they started, now is the right time during the race riot. So the race riot was just a reminder, because it's not in the news we hear about the race riot at a specific time, but that can actually happen anytime, and it's something that we experience, and we are very aware that we can experience that anytime.
Fantastic. And my co-conspirator, what is culture shock to you, sir?
So for me, culture shock, in a sense, I've always lived it, because we are marginalised minorities in this country. So wherever I've been, obviously I'm in cities, it's, I can feel more of my culture, more food. I live here in Stroud. I must say, first and foremost, Stroud is a wonderful place to live, kind of thing. And I hear I'm sort of under the understanding that people are thinking that Stroud is almost dying, kind of thing. And I don't see that at all. I think Stroud is a really vibrant cultural place. You go out anywhere in the country, you don't find anything like this. We've just come back in fact, I've just come back from Frome last weekend, which is very similar to Stroud, but doesn't have nowhere near the culture, kind of thing. But anyway, getting back to culture shock, kind of thing, when I think of culture shock, I think of my parents. Sort of coming from Jamaica to the UK in the 58, thinking about all the opportunities, excitement, kind of thing, and then to get here, and probably quite frustrated, kind of thing, with all the discrimination, racism that they've had to go through, and sadly, it's still with us today. 55 years later, we're still struggling with this concept of, and I don't know how we go about stopping it, really. I talk to my learned friend here, Ronnie, all the time about it, and I probably will bring it up now, but sort of saying, I think a big thing around it is probably privilege. I think until people understand this concept of privilege, nothing will change, kind of thing. But I'll hand it back. I don't want to go too deeply into things, because I don't want to bring the whole temperature down.
Okay, and I'm thinking on my feet here. Something was mentioned which is really interesting. The gentleman who gave a presentation on dance culture. So that was really interesting to me, because I come from that dance culture, was probably at the feet of those who started that particular dance culture. So it relates to the idea of, what happened during the race riots. I had to literally cancel a book launch because it was considered that it was too dangerous for me to travel from Stroud to London to actually launch this particular book, which was a book about James Baldwin, funny enough. So we had to cancel that event. So this idea of culture we've always used as black people, and I'm speaking generally here because we may all have different views of what it means to be black. But we've always used culture as kind of agency to allow us, first and foremost, is to occupy sites, clubs, shebeens, or whatever, where we feel safe. So they're safe spaces that we can go into. And many times that we create these spaces, we're not even aware that we're creating culture, so to speak, It's just something that we do. And then very often people are invited into those spaces, and before we know it, those things are appropriated, and we don't get the benefit. Someone had put in the presentation that we should own the things that we actually create. So black art is very much about the struggle to occupy the sites of popular position. Yeah, it's a struggle for visibility, the struggle to occupy the sites of popular position, and I think that's a Stuart Hall quote. The nature of our art, and again I'm speaking generally, people can disagree with this, it has, it's a political art to begin with. First of all, because we're struggling for that particular visibility. And when we come up against the pushbacks for the nature of our art, and that's where the culture, the contention happens. That's where we talk about this idea of culture shock. So I guess in our conversation that we are here is very often we create these arts, but we never get the funding to create our art and sustain our art. Derrick and I, we basically, a lot of the events we do out of our own pockets. And no one really comes and says, if you go there, you'll get some money. If you come here and have a discussion with us, you will get some money. And very often people say, don't worry about the money. But we are worried about the money because we can't create the art if we don't talk about the money. So anyway, I'm a very talkative person, so I'm going to try and maybe
I think I want to answer to what you're saying here, because I think as Black communities and Black inheritant of this Black history of resilience, isn't it, of overcoming all those attacks on African and Afro-descent culture, we just used to do this without the funding. Art and creativity has been and is a tool for Black communities to resist, to challenge, to stay, and to build this resilience. And I know that for me, this idea of what culture shock is and what does that has to do with Black culture, if that's a thing. Is that crisis is what we eat for breakfast, lunch, meal, snack. Crisis, we used to it. There is nothing new for us. It's interesting to talk about those crises at the moment. I can't remember. There was so interesting talk so far. I took so many notes of what I can't remember who said that. Talked about crisis. Specifically, and the creativity crisis that is not present in this room. But there is a crisis that definitely is present, and we talk often about the cost of living crisis, and I've heard this really interesting perspective on that it's more a cost of greed crisis, because living doesn't cost a penny, as we all know, because as far as until now, the air is free. Until now. And so, how do we share this power, those resources, so that more equitably, so that art can be created by everyone and also reach those who have not been in art schools, who've not been able to access art education. And I suppose this is where I see many opportunities for Stroud, for societies in general, to overcome those challenges of the cost of greed crisis.
On that note, I'd just like to sort of say, sort of travelling around the place, I can't remember who was talking earlier, sort of showing photos of sort of, I think, Siena and places like that kind of thing. I sort of look across in the room, and of course the room is full of professionals, and how we reach the kind of marginalised communities. Like, I lived in Portugal for 22 years and sort of like travelled in Italy and places, and you go down to those places and you're going to the theatre and it's everybody in there, all the classes. Same in Portugal, Italy, I think, even in Russia, I was there sort of thing, the Bolshoi and things like that. And we seem to be missing that here, kind of thing, It's kind of like culture is seen as something high. So of course you're scaring kind of thing, I think, sort of working class, sort of marginalised people away from it. And we need to really have much more engagement there, I think, kind of thing. And I know I see some people here, and we're trying to do that in Gloucester, kind of thing. I shall mention the picture drone, kind of thing, yeah? And kind of thing. So I think that was probably somewhere where we should be really, really trying to push for, kind of thing. Because I think it's really great, but I think it should be for everybody.
Oh, and now that I hear you reacting, I found that so inspiring. Earlier, we had some music at some point. One of the speakers put some music, and this is when the room became alive.
Yeah.
And you can see how just art, creativity, culture, whatever you call it, how that makes react is just like pointless statement from me here, just because I can.
Okay, so in our conversation that we had, this, I think we come from different points of view on certain issues in terms of the role of black art. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What do you consider the role of black art within culture? And what is black art, to be honest with you?
What is black art? I'd say in the black culture, obviously, I think there's a difference in the sense that I think in certain cultures, kind of thing, and how to sort of say this in a sort of nicer way is, I think in some cultures, art is studied. In poorer cultures, art is just made. It's just something people do, kind of thing, you know. Like I've got lots of friends in London where I come from who make art, kind of thing. They've never been to an art school, kind of thing. But of course, they're not recognised because they haven't gone through that kind of system, kind of thing. And I kind of would like to see that change. I could really go on about a lot of things, but I've got to be careful what I say.
Rachel, what's black art to you?
Yeah.
I don't know what black art is. I'm not an artist per se. You are the artists. I think it's easier to. That's something I noticed in this country from coming from a different country, is that here we like to group people like BAME, thing, and BME, and black arts. And I think there is definitely a black culture and black arts related to resistance and resilience. But I think that there is also other art that is just arts, you know, just culture also, and life. And sometimes it's just like it's hard to go out from the expectation of society for us to talk about this struggle and resistance when actually we can talk about other things. I suppose what I wanted to answer to this question, which is not an answer, but to be sure that I'm saying what I wanted to say in terms of, we're talking about many things, many issues, many challenges, and we also came with some ideas of what solutions, what better ways of doing could be. And some of the ideas that we talked about is to be in the room, where decisions are taken, because being black or being a black artist or doing black arts is not only the delivery, it's also being part of the community, being part of your community, and being part of taking decisions of what show going to be on, what project going to be funded. Not only on the black art side of stuff, but in just the public program of the community. Black art media, to have the ability to manage funding, to support, to accompany artists from the community who want to develop art and share practices with the rest of the community, is a way of being in the room to decide where the funding goes. And I suppose a last one is consistency of treatment. I think from our experiences, we know that often we are treated differently, or we are not told everything, like how much does it cost to do this thing, and this person is paid more than this person, and this person is treated better than this person. So consistency of treatment. Often the inconsistency is just a lack of thinking about everything, but that has big impacts on people's experiences. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're probably going to be wrapping up in a second. So for me, black art is the art made by black people in order to shed light on their plight and to somehow get rid of the negative imagery. Now, a lot of people who create this art will say, well, I don't want to be a black artist because I get pigeonholed in terms of my art, and that's their prerogative. I define blackness as a changing same. It's something that's rooted in something that gives us a sense of stability, but at the same time, it's something that's constantly changing, reacting to the political situation, to gains won, and also reacting to the rollback which we're experiencing in America at the moment. So blackness is always reacting to these changes, these political moments in that way. So for me, as part of Black Art Media, we try to promote poetry, visual art, and music from a black perspective. We say a black perspective because very often, and to use the quote by Santayana, history is always written wrong, so it needs to be rewritten. Yeah, history is always written wrong, and so it needs to be rewritten. So we feel as people who come from the culture, and when I say the culture, I'm not trying to be exclusive. Cultures are, by definition, inclusive and exclusive at the same time. So there's always going to be this contention, this dynamic contention that's at the heart of culture. So when I speak about terms of identity, I don't mean it to be exclusive. My own position is that I think people should work together. But as someone that's on stage here with you, I think the thing that's our concern is how do we get to produce this art and also leave a legacy, not just creating a spectacle and then people go home and they feel all right. We're trying to leave a legacy, something that's enduring for the next generation, and for people to build on, and ultimately for us to collapse these rigid definitions of who we think we are, so that we can work towards a society and an art that's truly inclusive. As James Baldwin says, God gave no other rainbow sign, no more water, the fire next time. All right? So leave you with that.